Broken Arrow's open beta is around the corner with only about a week left to go. The developers announced a new specialization for the Russian faction, giving both the US and Russia now 3 total specializations or specs to choose from within the game. This devlog actually talks about some new features that you can expect from the game, as well as it showcases some weird units with unique possibilities. Let's dive on it. The Russian coastal troops form the 3rd spec for the Russian faction. It combines older Soviet vehicles and equipment with state-of-the-art cruise and ballistic missile systems, as well as military equipment meant for Arctic warfare. With the open beta kicking off on November 12th, which of the 6 specs available in the next beta will you combine into a deck? Let me know down below. I'm very curious about your favorite combinations. Starting off with the Recon tab for the coastal troops, the PDSS combat diver teams are a very unique and new unit to Broken Arrow. They have an exceptional stealth rating, they can be airdropped from aircraft for operations behind enemy lines, and finally they can actually swim across water. The PDSS teams can be equipped with DP-64 double-barrel grenade launchers or with ADS rifles, giving them the ability to actually shoot while underwater. How useful shooting while underwater will be remains to be seen. There's a lot of things we don't know yet, but it's interesting to see that I have that as an option. Then the Spetsnaz VMF are a 6-man special forces recon team. They focus on either close quarter warfare using a bullpup PKP machine gun and SVU AS marksman rifles, or they focus on longer range support using AS-VK anti-material sniper rifles. Keep in mind that I went into detail regarding the infantry overhaul, which I'll link down in the description below. I talk about this here because the sniper rifles or marksman rifles will now partially or fully ignore the cover that buildings provide, meaning they have a lot more use in building-to-building combat in Broken Arrow. The BRDM-2 is an example of the older Soviet vehicles I mentioned in the beginning. However, besides the standard 12.7 or 14.5mm machine gun options, the BRDM can be upgraded with an automatic grenade launcher as well as a 23mm autocannon, giving a lot more firepower to this relatively unarmored vehicle. Furthermore, the BCAS or BCAS optics module can give it better eyes and ears, but it's still on the chassis of a BRDM. The 1V14 Machina S is actually an MTLBU with a whole bunch of upgrades on it, allowing it to actually become a decent recon vehicle. The MRU upgrade gives it better optics, and both variants come with laser designators. The BTR-90 combines a BTR-80 hull with the turret of a BMP-2. It's armed with a 30mm autocannon, ATGMs or anti-tank guided missiles, and has room for an automatic grenade launcher via an upgrade as well. You can even upgrade the BTR-90 completely with a BMD-4 type turret, giving it not only the 30mm autocannon, but also a 100mm rifled main gun, as well as more ATGM launchers. With multiple tiers of different armor upgrades, including a cage and reactive armor, that BTR-90 can then fend off lighter anti-tank with a little bit more confidence. The standard squad for the coastal troops in terms of regular line units is made up of the 7-man Morskaya Pekota or Naval Infantry unit. They are equipped with older AK-74 rifles, RPK-74 light machine guns, as well as underbarrel grenade launchers and RPG-27 light anti-tank rockets. The Cherny Bereti or Black Berets are a veteran version of the Morskaya Pekota who run around in squads of 14, can actually upgrade their anti-tank from the RPG-27 to the RPG-28, which will have more penetration, but I assume it'll also come at a higher cost. Going from the Naval Infantry to Mountain Infantry here with the Gorno Strelki, another 7-man squad focusing more on longer range combat with 2 SVD marksman rifles and a light anti-tank guided missile launcher. In terms of transportation for these sort of main infantry units, the BTR-80 and the BTR-80A can provide decent fire support, transporting 8 soldiers, and it can pick between a 14.5mm heavy machine gun or upgrade it to a 30mm autocannon backed up by an automatic grenade launcher. Upgrading the BTR-80 with plates and cages for a bit more protection will, however, weigh it down to the point it will not be amphibious anymore, kind of defeats the whole purpose of playing as the coastal troops. Here is a version of the BMP-3 without a turret with extra room for more passengers. The BT-3F now has a total of 14 infantry slots, exactly enough to take one squad of the Black Berets. The remote-controlled machine gun on the roof can be upgraded from a PKT medium machine gun to a quad heavy machine gun, and even an AP-23 autocannon. The BMOP, which I believe is just another MTLBU, can be upgraded with a ton of different equipment, from 30mm autocannons, ATGMs, a 57mm anti-aircraft system, as well as a 100mm anti-tank gun. Looks like this vehicle will be very versatile in terms of what role it can fulfill somewhat, but it doesn't look very armored, and the crew is very susceptible to incoming rounds, basically like an army version of a technical you could see in some rebel armies around the world. It is very surprising to see the PT-76 in pretty much its original form being able to be called in Broken Arrow. It is still very slow, even after you upgrade its engine. It has virtually no armor, and it's so undergunned, it's maybe at the very best a mediocre fire support vehicle. However, you can upgrade it, allowing you to give it a BTR-80A turret, which comes in an autocannon and an automatic grenade launcher, or even give it a 57mm autocannon. Keep in mind that, again, upgrading units makes them usually more expensive. You can call in 3 standard PT-76s compared to 1 fully upgraded one, showcasing some of the variety that you will likely see in Broken Arrow. The T-80BM, though old and outdated in terms of armor and ammo, should prove still somewhat of a scary opponent through the advanced autoloading system, as well as the actual mobility of the tank. Now, the BVM upgrade gives it better optics, firepower, armor, and speed, but it'll obviously increase the cost of calling it in compared to the older BM version. The support category for the coastal troops is where some weird and unique units will make an appearance. The DT-30 Vityaz was designed to traverse snow, swamp, water, desert, and pretty much everything in between. It is very slow, but it can carry a lot of supplies, up to 30 tons in Broken Arrow, and it can traverse pretty much whatever terrain it encounters. And if I understand it correctly, in Broken Arrow, it'll even be amphibious. While the DT-30 is a supply or transport vehicle by default, there are a bunch of different variants of it in this specialization. One of them here is armed with a 120mm mortar. Of course, it is still very slow, but it does have a lot of ammo to it, which gives it a lot of autonomy, and it doesn't have to be constantly worried about getting resupplied. The A222 Bereg combines a heavy-duty truck with a 130mm ship naval gun. Not only can it be used like a conventional howitzer, it can actually directly engage ground units as well. And finally, if it really came down to it, using special proxy fuse ammo, it can even engage enemy helicopters that come close enough. The Iskander is a large missile launching system, either equipped with 2 large ballistic missiles or 2 to 4 cruise missiles. In Broken Arrow, ballistic missiles fly high up into the sky and will approach the target at a high speed, giving short-range anti-air defenses almost no chance to deal with them. The cruise missiles in Broken Arrow, on the other hand, will fly low to the ground, attempting to avoid being seen on radar and giving long-range anti-air a little bit of a tougher time to deal with them. Another version of the DT-30, this time it's not artillery, this time it is an anti-aircraft system, the Tor M2 to be specific. It can launch up to 16 missiles, giving it a ton of autonomy and sustainability. It is mostly effective against helicopters, but it can technically be used against planes, but the range on that is a lot shorter. You can activate the radar on this unit, giving it better detection and more engagement range, but what I assume will happen is also allows anti-radiation missiles on board of seed aircraft the opportunity to actually target the radar and thus destroy it, so you have to be kind of careful with when to enable or disable the radar. You can even upgrade the Tor M2 to the Pantsir, which carries 18 missiles, which will have more range and do more damage, but of course it'll most likely be more expensive. Then finally, the S350 Vityaz carries 12 missiles that are smaller and have less range compared to the S300, a unit that I'm sure we'll see in game. However, what it lacks lacks in effectiveness against aircraft, it makes up for in being better at countering enemy crews as well as ballistic missile attacks. The helicopters of the coastal troops are an interesting bunch, with the Ka-829, for example, being the typical Russian Navy helicopter. It has a lot of upgrade possibilities, small caliber miniguns, rocket pods, autocannons of different sizes, as well as different types of ATGMs for use against vehicles. It can also carry 3 tons of supplies and up to 16 soldiers inside the passenger compartment. The naval version of the Ka-52, the Ka-52K Katran, does carry 2 pylons less, which allows it to fit more easily on ships, but it can still carry a bunch of rockets, ATGMs, and also carry SEAD or anti-radiation missiles to help counter enemy radar AA, and even KH-35 cruise missiles. Finally, the aircraft category for the coastal troop specs is again a mix of old and new. The AN-72P can carry 52 infantry on board or drop off up to 7.5 tons of supplies and cargo. It can be given 23mm cannons and even rocket pods for strikes against light targets. I do wonder if you could first paradrop a few squads, turn back, come in for an attack run with rockets and 23mm cannons before heading home, actually not only dropping paratroopers and also directly supporting them with the same aircraft. The Su-33 can use a few select air-to-air ammunitions, but the weird thing is that the strength of this aircraft is in its unguided munitions. It can carry 6 340mm rockets, which is just massive. That's almost Storm Tiger size, and then 6 of those, or up to 50 100kg bombs just to litter an area with explosives. With the Tu-142, you can launch an absurd amount of bombs and missiles, whether they are 32 250kg ones, a single 3000kg, 8 cruise missiles. There's a lot of options to pick from on the Tu-142. Keep in mind while looking at one of these specs that you're only looking at one of them. You will always have to combine 2 of them to make a functional working deck. This allows you to either double down on the strengths of the specs you're combining, or you can try to pick 2 specs that really help make up for each other's weaknesses. With that said, the beta is near and there are still 4 more specs to reveal. Also keep in mind the developers mentioned a highly anticipated announcement sometime in December, so Broken Arrow has a lot of stuff in store for us still in the near future. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.